Okay, good evening, everyone. David Cashman here at SEB Housing. This is the lottery for the affordable homeownership units at Sandy Pines in Plymouth. We're going to do the drawing in just a couple moments. Before we do it, I'll just give you a couple numbers about how many people applied, how I'm going to run the lottery, and what to expect going forward. Before I do the drawing, is there anyone watching who has forgotten what their lottery application number is? That's the number in the form of A dot blank 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 that was sent to you when we told you that you were eligible for this lottery. If there's anyone who's forgotten what their lottery application number is, let me know and I'm happy to look it up for you. If you know what it is, great. You don't need to tell me, and it's probably better off that I don't know. So just wait a sec, see if anyone responds. So Michaela, you're saying me. I take that to mean you forgot yours. So let me just see here. Oh, you have it. Okay, so you know what it is. Great. Okay, so let me just give you a little bit of the actual lottery drawing is going to be really quick. There's no local preference in this lottery. It's just one general drawing. There were 8 completed and eligible applicants for the lottery. So there's going to be 8 lottery application numbers entered and drawn out. And the way it's going to work is pretty simple, really. We've got our lottery box, primitive, simple, but gets the job done. We've got all of your lottery application numbers here. I've already pre-sorted those, and I'll shake them up once I put them in the box. Once I put them in, I'll shake them up again, and then I'll reach in one by one and grab lottery application numbers out. I'll hold them up to the screen as I go and call them out so you can see where your number is called. Remember that the actual order in which the numbers are drawn doesn't tell you the whole story, because we still need to sort the results onto the waiting list. We do need to give certain priorities for larger household types. So just to give you an example, we're going to have 2 different waiting lists. Those waiting lists I will send to you tonight. I'll probably send them in the next 2 or 3 hours. Those waiting lists will be organized top to bottom in the order of priority that households will get to move forward. And those waiting lists will be organized according to the priorities that we have to give. So for example, we're going to have, we'll have 2 waiting lists. We'll have a 2-bedroom waiting list. There were 6 of those units and 3 applicants for those. So all of those households will have an opportunity to move forward. Of those 3 applicants, 1 household is a type 3 household, 1 is a type 2 household, and 1 is a type 1 household. The type 3 and type 2 households will be given priority over the type 1 household, and that will be reflected in the waiting list that I send to you. Okay, because type 1 households don't get priority for either a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom unit. They'll still be on the waiting list, they just won't have top priority. There's also going to be a 3-bedroom waiting list. There are 4 of those units and 8 applicants. So every household who applied for this lottery applied for the 3-bedroom units. And additionally, 3 out of those 8 also applied for 2-bedroom units, which is okay because you can apply for both. And you may have the opportunity to choose the one that most suits you and that you're most interested in at this time. Of the 8 applicants who applied for the 4 3-bedroom units, 6 of them were type 3. They will get top priority. Those will be the first 6 households on the waiting list, regardless of where they're drawn in the lottery that I'm going to do in a couple moments. The top 6 households will be the type 6, type 3 households who applied. They'll be followed by the type 2 household, who will be followed by the type 1 household, because that's how the waiting lists are required to be ordered according to program rules in terms of they're required to be ordered by household type. Type 3 get first priority for a 3-bedroom unit. Type 2 get second priority for a 3-bedroom unit. And type 1 get last priority for a 3-bedroom unit. So all of this is to say, I'm going to do the drawing soon. As you watch, obviously being picked earlier is better than being picked later, but you're not going to know exactly where you are on the waiting list until I send those in just a few hours. And then you'll see exactly where you are top to bottom. When I send the waiting list, you're going to notice everyone's number is going to be highlighted in green. And that means that every household who's in this lottery is going to be invited forward in the next step of this process. The next step of this process is to submit all of the income and asset and tax documentation that you did not have to submit when you submitted a lottery application to get into the lottery. So as you recall, you had to fill out our application, you had to list what your income and asset sources are, and you had to list how much you made and the value of your assets. But you did not actually have to submit supporting documentation in the form of 1099s or W-2s, or if you're self-employed, self-employment affidavit. You didn't have to submit bank account statements. You didn't have to submit the last 3 years of taxes. You were given the documents requirements guide when you were told that you were eligible for the lottery that explained all of these things and hopefully prepared you for the submission that's now going to be required. So if you read that and began to collect all of that documentation, then hopefully this next step should be relatively easy because you've already got your file prepared as we speak. You spent the last 2 weeks or month or however long getting all of that stuff together. And so when we send you a notice tomorrow inviting you forward to submit all that stuff, you have it and you can just turn it in. If you haven't gone ahead and already started preparing that stuff, you're going to have to do so relatively quickly because you're going to have a deadline of about a week or 10 days to get it all into us. So you're going to have to get all that stuff and submit it. As you submit documentation, we'll review it. We'll get back to you. We'll let you know if we have questions, if anything's missing. And ultimately, households who are eligible, we have to send the files to the monitoring agent for a final approval. Usually that's a pretty perfunctory, not perfunctory, but they typically agree with us. So if we say an applicant's file is complete and they're eligible, usually the monitoring agent agrees, and that's the end of it. Occasionally they may ask a question, they may ask for another document that they think we should have asked for. If that happens, we'll let you know, and you just need to be prepared to provide that. That is the exception, not the rule. If and when your file is submitted to the monitoring agent, we'll let you know. And if and when they approve it, we will also let you know. I guess I should also say if your documentation shows that you're not eligible, then SEB will let you know that, okay? Hopefully that's not the case, but that does happen. Households will report their income as X, but then, when we look through all the documentation, it's actually higher than X. But we don't know yet. We'll see. I hope that's not the case. And if it is the case, we'll let you know, and we can take it from there. For households who we deem eligible, who the program administrator deems eligible, they will get to move on in the next step, which is kind of the last step, which is to engage with the sales team. Okay, not SEB Housing, but the actual developer and their sales team. And you'd sign a reservation agreement for the unit of your choice. And then you'd next sign a purchase and sale agreement. Then you'd have to get your mortgage commitment, and ultimately you'd move forward towards closing. SEB would be involved peripherally because there's a final review you have to do closer to your closing date. But most of those steps are coordinated between the affordable applicant buyer and the sales team, not SEB. So if you need an extension or you have questions about a purchase and sale clause or anything like that, those are negotiations as between you and the sales team, not SEB. And if you do move forward in that process, as I've said before, but I think it's worth reiterating, definitely a good idea to hire a lawyer to represent you through that, make sure that your interests are protected, make sure that you understand what your rights and obligations are moving forward in this process. And I guess the final thing I'll say is all households have to remain eligible for this program all the way up through closing. And that's the reason that SEB Housing does a second review closer to your closing date to make sure that you have maintained program eligibility. Usually this process can take several months between the lottery or longer than several months, depending on which unit you choose, because they're not all going to be available at the same time. But, 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 months could go by between the lottery when you close on your unit. And so we need to make sure that when you're getting closer to your closing date that you've maintained program eligibility, your income or assets haven't gone way up and pushed you over the threshold. Okay. So I'm going to do the drawing. Are there any questions before I do it? Like I said, this is going to be really quick. I mean, this might take all of a minute or two to get through it because I'm just going to draw the numbers out. I'll hold them up. I'll make note as I go. And then, as I've said before, I'll send you the waiting list in order, top to bottom, in a few hours from now. And those waiting lists are going to really give you the picture top to bottom of where you stand relative to other households in this lottery. And then by tomorrow, you should be receiving a follow-up communication from SEB inviting you to submit all of the income and asset and tax documentation that's now going to be required. All right. So any questions before I do the drawing? All right. Well, if someone thinks of something, they can certainly ask after. I won't run away right away. I've got all 8 numbers right here. They've already been shuffled, but I'll put them in the box and just mix them up a little more so everyone can see. Okay. And I will hold them up and call them out as I go. First one is A.001. Next number is A.008. Next number is A.002. Next number, A.003. Next number is A.006. Next number is A.005. Next number is A.004. A.004. And the last number drawn is A.007. A.007. All right, that's the drawing. Like I said, that was going to go quickly, and it did. That's all 8 numbers. I think every household in this lottery has provided a email, so I'll be emailing you the waiting list in a few hours from now. Like I said, there'll be 2 waiting lists, the 2-bedroom waiting list and the 3-bedroom waiting list. They'll each be ordered top to bottom in the order of priority, and that will be maintained going forward. All households will be getting invited to submit income and asset and tax documentation, and that invitation should go out tomorrow. In addition to the waiting list I send you tonight, I will send you a lottery night handout that just has a little bit of information, most of which I've covered just in the session, but it'll just have a little bit of information about how many households applied and what their makeup was, if they were type 3 or type 2 or type 1, what the waiting list will look like, and a little bit about what to expect going forward. So that's it, folks. Thank you for attending. Are there any last questions before I go? I'm happy to take them. All right. Well, thanks for coming out, and you will hear from us shortly. Have a good night, everyone.